Welcome to the deep dive. We dive into stacks of sources, pull out the key insights, and, well, tailor them just for you. Today, we're heading to West Africa, specifically the remote cliffs of Mali, home of the Dogon people. Now, picture this. An indigenous group. Seems pretty isolated, right? But they hold this astronomical knowledge that honestly, for a lot of people, just doesn't add up with conventional history.
It really doesn't.
So, what's the actual mystery at the heart of it all? It boils down to this. How did the Dogon know about Sirius B? I mean, this is a white dwarf star. You absolutely cannot see it without a powerful telescope.
Right, invisible.
They call it Potolo. And they didn't just know it existed, they described its tiny size, but also its incredible density. They called it Sagala, basically the heaviest thing imaginable.
Yeah, like all earthly beings combined couldn't lift it. That kind of heavy.
Huh.
It's metaphorical maybe, but wow.
And they nailed its orbit around Sirius A, an elliptical path, taking 50 years. 50 years. Plus, they apparently knew it rotated. This was centuries, literally centuries, before Western science could even confirm Sirius B existed, let alone map its orbit with telescopes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the question is just, how?
It's stunning. And this knowledge, it's not just, abstract data for them. It gets woven right into their foundational myths, their traditions. Talk about the Nommo, these amphibious beings who they say came from the Sirius system.
In a spinning vessel, wasn't that the description?
That's the one, a spinning vessel.
Yeah.
And these Nomos supposedly gave them this knowledge. So right away, you've got this tension. Is it just a really unique, fascinating cultural artifact? Or is it what some people strongly believe, actual proof of ancient alien contact?
That's a huge leap, isn't it? Proof of alien contact.
It definitely raises the stakes.
And that's exactly what we're going to tackle in this deep dive. We're not just looking at Dogon cosmology and isolation, we're really digging into this specific theory, the Dogon tribe, ancient alien contact, and the suppressed knowledge of humanity's cosmic origins. That whole package. So we'll unpack the claims about this impossible knowledge, these frankly chilling ideas about a massive cover-up by, powerful groups. We'll look at the evidence that proponents put forward, but also, really importantly, the counter-arguments, the more skeptical takes.
Exactly. And our goal here isn't just to tell you what the sources say, because it's complex stuff.
Yeah.
It's also to explore why. Why does a theory like this, alien contact, suppressed knowledge, why does it resonate so much? It taps into something, right?
Right.
That curiosity about where we come from, our place in the cosmos.
A yearning for connection, maybe?
Perhaps. Or maybe just a sense that there's more to the story than we're told. So this deep dive should give you a clear map, help you navigate these really fascinating, sometimes unsettling ideas, and equip you to keep thinking about it yourself.
Okay, so where does this Dogon enigma really start? Well, geographically, it's the Bandiagra Escarpment in Mali. Pretty remote. For decades, their culture, their cosmology, especially the star knowledge, it's just drawn researchers in.
Absolutely. And the main source, the one everyone usually points to for the West's understanding, comes from two French anthropologists, Marcel Griaule and Germaine Dieterlen. They spent a long time there, field work from roughly 1931 right up to 1956.
Wow, that's dedication.
It is. And their big work, published in '65, Le Renard Pole, the Pale Fox, that's where all these detailed accounts of this, super advanced astronomical knowledge really come from.
So let's get specific. Sirius B, which they call Potolo.
Right.
They reportedly knew it was invisible. Check, that's true. They said it was incredibly dense, made of this Sagala, the heaviest stuff in the universe.
Which, lines up incredibly well with our understanding of white dwarf density. Matter packed incredibly tightly. It's kind of mind-blowing for a culture without, say, particle physics.
It really is. And then there's the orbit. They specified 50 Earth years to go around Sirius A.
Which is remarkably close.
Nice.
Western astronomy landed on about 50.1 years, but only after, 1862?
Yeah.
Long after Griaule started his work.
And they knew the orbit wasn't circular, but elliptical, and that Potolo spins.
The details just keep piling up.
And apparently wasn't just Sirius B. They also talked about a third star in the system, MEA, the smaller sun.
Which is interesting because astronomically, Sirius C is still kind of hypothetical for us. There's some potential evidence, but it's not confirmed. Yet the Dogons seem to know about it.
It keeps going, right? What else?
Well, the reports also claim they knew Jupiter had 4 big moons, the Galilean moons, and that Saturn has rings.
Again, centuries before Galileo's telescope made those common knowledge in the West.
Exactly. And even knowledge about the Milky Way being a spiral, and other galaxies too.
Okay, so for mainstream science, the explanation tends to be, what, cultural contamination? Maybe the researchers led the witnesses? Misinterpretation?
That's generally the line, yes.
Yeah.
Cultural diffusion, maybe griot putting ideas in their heads, even unintentionally. Or maybe taking poetic descriptions too literally.
But for the ancient alien proponents, this isn't just a coincidence or a mistake.
No, for them, the sheer volume and accuracy of this information, stuff that seems impossible for an isolated culture without telescopes or advanced math. It's not a puzzle. It's a clue. A big one.
A profound clue, you said earlier. That shift in perspective is key, isn't it?
It absolutely defines the theory.
So if we run with that theory for a moment,
Okay.
if the Dogon didn't figure this out themselves, where do the proponents say it came from?
Right, this leads us straight to the Nommo.
The amphibious beings again.
Yes. The Dogon tradition attributes the knowledge directly to them. Beings who came down from Sirius in that spinning vessel ages ago. The theory essentially says these weren't myths. These were real extraterrestrials in a real spacecraft visiting Earth.
Wow.
And the idea is these Nommos weren't just passing through. They were from some hyper-advanced civilization, maybe cosmic seeders or teachers.
Teachers.
Yeah, deliberately transferring knowledge, scientific, astronomical, maybe even spiritual stuff to early humans. The Dogon being one chosen group.
Some versions even suggest genetic influence, right?
Yeah. Some more extreme interpretations, yes. It fundamentally reframes how human knowledge and maybe even biology developed. It wasn't all just us figuring things out slowly. There was input.
So the impossible knowledge point is really the cornerstone.
It has to be. Proponents argue there's just no way the Dogon could know about Sirius B's details, invisibility, density, that 50-year orbit without outside help. Naked eye observation. Simple tools. Doesn't cut it.
And they argue it couldn't have just trickled in from somewhere else either.
Right, because where would it trickle from? Other ancient cultures didn't have this specific, accurate knowledge themselves. So the argument goes, it had to come from off-world.
Then there's this idea of a Dogon agenda, like why them specifically?
The theory suggests their isolation was key. They were remote, maybe seen as culturally pure, less likely to corrupt the information. The Nommo supposedly picked them as guardians, custodians of this cosmic truth, preserving it orally until humanity was, quote, ready.
Ready for the truth about aliens.
Essentially. And it's often seen not just as a one-off, but part of a global pattern. Ancient alien contact happening everywhere, but the Dogon case offers the most specific, maybe the most compelling proof.
Okay, this is where it gets, well, even more intense. Because the theory doesn't stop at ancient contact. It moves into claims of a modern cover-up.
Yes, a grand suppression of the truth. The idea is that the real origin of the Dogon knowledge aliens is known by powerful groups, but they're actively hiding it.
Who are the alleged culprits in this scenario? Who's doing the suppressing?
Well, the theory often points first at mainstream science, particularly anthropology and archaeology.
Why them?
They're accused of being dogmatic, basically. Unwilling to look at evidence that messes up their neat timelines of human progress. Accepting ancient aliens would, kind of wreck the established academic framework, maybe jeopardize funding, careers.
Okay.
Governments are usually next on the list. Fear of mass panic is one suggested motive. If everyone knew aliens were real and had visited, chaos, maybe. Or maybe governments want to hoard any potential alien tech or knowledge for themselves.
Makes sense from a conspiracy perspective, and religion often gets mentioned too.
Definitely. If humanity was taught or even created by aliens, what does that do to traditional religious origin stories? It could undermine them completely.
And then sometimes you hear about like a shadowy global elite, secret societies.
Yeah, that layer gets added too. The idea that some hidden group controls the narrative, keeping humanity in the dark about its true cosmic heritage because the truth is too disruptive.
So the motives are pretty huge. Control, preventing upheaval, maybe holding on to power or resources. How do they supposedly enforce this suppression?
The methods cited are things like dismissal and ridicule, just labeling anyone who talks about it as fringe or pushing pseudoscience, controlling funding for research, controlling what gets published in major journals.
And constantly emphasizing the mainstream explanations we talked about.
Exactly. Highlighting potential cultural contamination, focusing on Grail's leading questions, anything to discredit the core claims about the specific impossible knowledge without actually grappling with that specificity.
Right, so for the believers in this theory, what specific things do they hold up as the strongest evidence? What makes them so sure?
It really comes back to that core Sirius B knowledge. Its invisibility, density, orbit. They argue it's just too accurate, too specific, It smells like direct information transfer, not guesswork or myth.
And Sirius C, the moons of Jupiter, the rings of Saturn.
Yes, all that adds weight. Things seemingly known centuries before Western science caught up. For proponents, the sheer accumulation of these advanced details is the smoking gun. It just can't be explained away easily, they say.
And the Nommo stories themselves?
They're not seen as myths. They're interpreted as literal historical accounts, an amphibious race arriving in a spinning vessel. I mean, to proponents, that sounds an awful lot like modern descriptions of ETs and UFOs. Too much of a coincidence.
Is there anything else? Like cultural practices?
Well, there's the Siji Festival. It's a major Dogon ceremony, held roughly every 50 or 60 years. Some proponents link that timing directly to Sirius B's 50-year orbit, like it's a ritual timer locked onto the Nommo's home star system's behavior.
Interesting connection.
And again, they place the Dogon story within that wider ancient astronaut context. It's not isolated, it's Exhibit A maybe, in a global phenomenon of ancient alien intervention.
And finally, the pushback they get from mainstream science
Is itself seen as evidence. If the establishment is trying so hard to debunk it or ignore it, proponents say they must be hiding something. It feeds the distrust.
Okay, so that lays out the case for alien contact pretty clearly. Now let's flip the coin. How does the mainstream scientific community, anthropology, astronomy, how do they explain all this? What's the counter-narrative?
That's absolutely crucial. The mainstream view largely rejects the alien hypothesis and explains the Dogon knowledge primarily through terrestrial means. The leading explanation involves cultural contamination and the influence of the researchers themselves, particularly Griol and Dieterlen.
So the idea is they weren't working with a completely isolated group.
Not entirely, no. Contact with the outside world, including Westerners, existed before and during Griol's time. Knowledge about Sirius B, especially after its orbit was calculated in the West, was out there. It could have diffused.
Diffused how? Missionaries, traders.
Could be any number of ways, even indirectly. But more pointedly, critics suggest Griol himself, perhaps unintentionally, introduced these ideas through his questioning.
Like he already knew about Sirius B and asked leading questions that the Dogon, known to be adaptive and wanting to please maybe, incorporated into their answers.
That's a major criticism, yes,
Yeah.
the methodology. And it's compounded by the fact that other researchers going later haven't been able to independently verify Griol's specific findings about Sirius B to the same degree.
Lack of replication. That's always significant in science.
Very. Subsequent studies often found the knowledge wasn't as widespread among all Dogon, or the details were much fuzzier than Griol reported.
What about the interpretation of their myths? Sagala, meaning heavy, for example.
Critics argue Griol and Dieterlen might have imposed a modern scientific framework onto what were actually symbolic, mythological concepts. Sagala could just be a powerful metaphor for something spiritually weighty or conceptually dense, not a statement about astrophysics.
Makes sense. And Sirius C still being hypothetical doesn't help the alien theory.
Exactly. If the Nommo gave them perfect knowledge, why is Sirius C still unconfirmed by our best telescopes? It raises questions.
And the big one, if they had this knowledge, shouldn't there be some trace of the technology needed to get it?
That's a huge point for skeptics. Where are the Dogon telescopes, the advanced mathematical records, the archaeological evidence of a high-tech interaction? It seems to be missing.
And the Nommo themselves.
Deeply rooted in Dogon spirituality, as sacred mythical beings connected to water and creation. Interpreting them as literal space aliens in ships is seen by many anthropologists as a very modern, very Western overlay onto traditional beliefs. It wasn't necessarily the Dogon's original understanding.
So the academic world generally treats the Dogon Sirius claims with, let's say, extreme caution.
Yes, due to the methodological concerns, the potential for misinterpretation in cross-cultural research, and the lack of solid, independent corroboration.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We've looked at these really startling claims about the Dogon, knowing incredible details about Sirius B and C, Jupiter's moons, Saturn's rings, knowledge they say came from the Nommo, and we've explored this whole theory built around it that it's hard proof of ancient alien visits and that this truth is being deliberately hidden.
Right. And just to summarize the two main poles of the argument, you've got the proponents pointing to the impossible knowledge, especially about Sirius B, the Nommo myths as literal history, and claiming a cover-up is hiding the extraterrestrial truth. Then you have the mainstream view, leaning on explanations like cultural contamination, researcher influence those leading questions, symbolic interpretation rather than literal science, and crucially, the lack of independent verification and missing technological evidence.
It is fascinating, though, why this theory holds on so tight, even with the mainstream skepticism.
Oh, absolutely.
There's just something inherently captivating about the idea of ancient aliens, isn't there? That impossible knowledge hook is powerful.
It is. Plus, there's often a general distrust of official stories, of established authority, and the what if. What if it were true? That's a compelling thought.
It taps into something deep, that desire to believe maybe our origins are more extraordinary, more cosmic than the standard textbook account.
Definitely. It challenges our whole sense of place. So as you reflect on the Dogon's wisdom, whatever its source, and this ongoing human search for answers, maybe the question to ponder is this: is all knowledge discovered through slow human effort? Or can some knowledge be received, gifted, perhaps?
And if it can be received,
What does that imply? About our history, about our potential, about our place in the universe, and maybe about secrets still waiting out there. Hopefully this deep dive has given you some tools, some perspectives to continue exploring those really big questions on your own.